Hi everybody, welcome to week 7. We finally made it. We are in the home stretch, only a few days left. So hope to see everybody on Saturday at graduation. So for this week we have our capstone final presentation. Eric and I decided to cover 38Studios. I think we both had the same reason for choosing this company, which was we're both from the area and remember the years of information that's come out on this case and the news stories that keep coming up about this. And so we really wanted to dig in further to learn more about what happened there. Around 2008, 2009, I actually had interviewed to be a game tester at a few different companies. And when I realized that Curt Schilling had a video game company, I actually started looking at open positions. So boy, am I happy I didn't end up doing that. So let's take a minute to talk about our fearless leader, Curt Schilling. Today I would say Curt is best known for putting his foot in his mouth, but he is a former Major League Baseball pitcher. He retired with the Red Sox, and he's best known for the 2004 Red Sox World Series. He had been interested in computers since he was 12 years old. He especially liked playing computer games on his Apple II. When he moved on to college in Arizona, he had a similar fixation with his computer back then. And even when he moved on to playing baseball professionally, while his teammates may be out partying and having fun on the road, he was staying in his room playing video games. Probably a good way to keep yourself out of trouble, too. So, as he was starting to near the end of his career, he started thinking about what his next stage in life would be post-baseball. And when he was meeting with his business manager, he told his business manager he wanted to be Bill Gates rich. And I'm pretty sure he was the only person in the room who didn't laugh hysterically at that. And really what he meant was, besides the earnings that Bill Gates had, it was his philanthropy. Schilling has a child who is autistic and saw that as an opportunity to be able to have a lot of money that he can donate to autism research and create autism research centers. So after everybody stopped laughing, his business manager advised, if you want to get to that level of rich, you need to find something that you're as passionate about as baseball. And for Curt Schilling, that's video games. So he saw the MMORPG, which is massive multiplayer online role-playing games, as his ticket to being able to attain that goal of being Bill Gates rich. Now, for example of an MMORPG, World of Warcraft is one of those. If you're not familiar, it's made over $1 billion and it's played everywhere. So it's maybe not the worst place to start when you're trying to think of a way to make $1 billion. But the problem is Curt Schilling has no experience in how to create an MMORPG. Since Curt Schilling was both a celebrity and an avid gamer, he could get VIP access to video game developers like Activision, Sony Online Entertainment, and Sega. When he started kicking around the idea for a video game company, he knew if he wanted it to be successful, he needed to approach it like he approached baseball, with as much preparation as possible. So he started spending more time at the game developers, but he liked to show up unannounced, so he'd get a more informal picture of the companies. He wanted to get an understanding of all the inner workings in the development process, and he also spent time talking to staff so he could understand what they were looking for in a company. His wife Shonda had an uncle, William Thomas, and we're going to get to know him in this presentation as Uncle Bill. Uncle Bill was a retired Fortune 500 business executive. One day Curt came to him and asked him what he thought his prospects would be in the video game industry. Uncle Bill had no background in that, so he needed to go and do his research. And he came back and the results were kind of positive. He told Curt he thought that he had a chance for success, both because he was a celebrity and he was an avid gamer, so he might know what people were looking to play the most. After that, Curt talked to his wife and said that he wanted to start with an investment to start the company off until they could get outside investors. So he took $5 million of their own personal funds to invest in the company. And in 2006, the company was founded initially as Green Monster Games. And his giant MMORPG was nicknamed Project Copernicus.
With Project Copernicus, Kurt Schilling sought to create an MMORPG that stood out amongst competitors because he wanted to have richer storyline and more striking visuals. So he sought to create a best-in-breed type of company. He brought in best-selling fantasy author R.A. Salvatore. Schilling was a big fan of his work, and it also turned out Salvatore was a big Red Sox fan. Todd McFarlane is best known as a comic book author, and he was brought in to design the visuals for the game. For the development team, Schilling brought in people from a lot of different places. Some may be people who were friends and he gamed with. Others were people he met while he was researching, trying to create a company. But he wanted to bring in a team that he thought would have the best success in creating that game that he wanted. He was also used to being treated a certain way. And so he wanted to create a company that treated his employees as he was treated as an MLB pitcher. He had top-of-the-line health care, where the employees didn't have any deductions for their health care. Their 401ks were matched to the maximum legal limit. At times, they had free gym memberships. There were homes initially that were rented for out-of-state employees to stay in until they found a place to live. And poor Uncle Bill had to set up all of this. And even with his background at a Fortune 500 company, knowing where some of this excessive spending needed to be curtailed, but Kurt really wanted to treat people a certain way and really started to treat the company like a family. Kurt estimates that he spent upwards of $2.5 million just on gifts to the staff over the life cycle of the company. With that in mind, when we get further into this, you're going to see as the company starts to break apart where those issues are. Within the first few years, Schilling was focused on securing financing and continuing to build his team, and he was looking to bring in the best executives within the gaming industry to his company. One of those people was Brett Close, and in 2007 he was brought in as CEO and President of Development. Close led to the change from Green Monster Games to 38Studios. Schilling continued to pay for everything at the company, and as you could see with some of those benefits, the money was being spent quickly. Whether he was meeting with strategic investors like Comcast or venture capitalists, nobody was interested in investing, and there seemed to be a couple reasons behind that. The way that Schilling spoke about the project and the potential profits, investors saw his confidence as a lack of understanding of the scope and costs of such a project, because an MMORPG can take 6 to 10 years to develop. It really spoke to them that he didn't have an understanding of the field that he was getting into. And so investors weren't interested in dropping money where they didn't think they could make money back. The team continued to fail to meet deadlines on project milestones, and the team came to management and told them they wanted to change the development process. Currently, they thought it was really hard to track and top down and document heavy. So they decided to take on an agile development process where developers had goals and timelines. They tracked progress on daily and even weekly basis, and they were more document light. In addition, they really focused on, with this development, trying to get the functionality where it needed to be. So much of the development they had done so far was trying to produce cool new things to show Schilling and investors. And so they weren't really great functional demos. And so this new process was put in place to try to meet those deadlines better and put out a better product overall. By 2009, the company still hadn't secured outside investors, and Schilling was continuing to bankroll the company well beyond his initial $5 million investment. At the time, his VP of Business Development, Jen McLean, came to him with an idea. There was a company called Big Huge Games that had fallen on hard times and was currently available for what McLean thought was a steal for what was available. The company was similar in size with about 70 employees. They were located in Baltimore. McLean had worked with the studio founders early in their career, and they had a proven track record because they had produced the top-selling game Rise of Nations. So with a development team that had a proven track record that could be picked up for what she thought was a steal, she thought it was a great investment for Schilling because there was a bigger chance for a return on investment. And so in 2009, they acquired Big Huge Games and set them to work on a single-player console version of what they were working on with Project Copernicus, because the MMORPG continued to lag. And their hope was they could get this out in time to generate more funds for the company and more excitement about the larger MMORPG. In 2010, Curt Schilling was having a fundraiser at his house, and it was attended by Donald Carcieri, who at the time was the governor of Rhode Island. The two men got to talking and started to see how a relationship could be mutually beneficial for them. Curt Schilling needed money, and Donald Carcieri wanted to build up the high-tech sector within Rhode Island. So they struck a deal that moved the company from Maynard, Massachusetts to Providence, Rhode Island. Schilling saw it as a godsend. He didn't have to give up any ownership in the company, and as he saw it, if the company went bust, it was Rhode Island who was on the hook. The company had a lot of aggressive hiring benchmarks that were part of this loan. They would unlock $17.2 million for creating 80 new jobs in the state by spring 2011, $4.2 million for adding 45 by fall 2011, and $3.1 million if they added an additional 125 jobs by the winter of 2011. So as you would think, the move from Maynard to Providence spared no expense. It doesn't matter that it was someone else's money. It was being spent just as recklessly. Moving expenses were paid for lots of employees. They hired real estate agents to help sell all the employees' houses. And once they got there, they went on a hiring binge because they needed money, and the more people they hired, the more money they'd get. So over the course of 2 years, they received $75 million from Rhode Island, and they hired 250 additional staff members. It got to be that they were on such a hiring binge, it just got to be a joke, because really it seemed like Curt Schilling would give out a job title to whoever asked for one. There was a joke with one employee saying, "Oh, you're VP of lunch? Oh yeah, I'm a VP of donuts." It just became a joke, and it started to affect the overall organizational structure of the company. By 2012, the company has received $50 million in loans from the state of Rhode Island, and they've spent almost all of it. They're continuing to miss deadlines on the MMORPG, and no one's being held accountable, and they still spend money recklessly. Despite this, they're able to release in February 2012 Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning, a single-player console game, mostly due to their Baltimore office. It sells approximately 1.3 million copies and receives mostly positive reviews. In March, Curt Schilling tries to secure a loan from the Bank of Rhode Island with $5 million in gold as collateral. At the same time, he hires 2 new executives for the company and stops paying employee benefits. By May 1st, they have missed a $1.125 million loan payment and go into default, starting a series of secret meetings with then-Governor Lincoln Chafee. And it's unbelievable that at this point, most of the company has no idea that they have any financial problems in the company. But they then fail to meet payroll on May 15th. This whole time, the company is working feverishly to try to create a product for the MMORPG, and they create a trailer that they're very proud of and start releasing. On May 17th, they try to make the $1.125 million loan payment, and the check bounces. And on May 24th, they lay off the entire company via email, leaving most of their employees with unpaid health insurance, moving expenses, and 401ks. After that, the state of Rhode Island launches an investigation into the company. So where did Curt go wrong? A lot of places, actually. So he had no experience in game developing. That was obvious in many ways. And he underestimated the cost and scope of an MMORPG. Especially for a startup trying to take that on as your first project, it's an insurmountable amount of work. really having no background and not understanding the prospects of an MMORPG. He was also misleading his potential investors, especially in the deal with the state of Rhode Island, because he was overpromising what could be produced and how much they could sell. And that led to big losses for everybody. Schilling estimates he spent $50 million of his own money on the company, and after tax credits and everything else, it's about $75 million for the state of Rhode Island. Because Curt Schilling put so much of his own money into the company, he didn't give it a second thought when he was hiring a lot of family members. Uncle Bill, and he was referred as Uncle Bill around the company and in front of potential investors. He was hired as COO. His wife, Shonda, was put on the board of directors. Shonda's father received a job in IT, and Shonda's mother was given the title of philanthropy and charity manager. Though Uncle Bill was really important for setting up the whole structure of the company, he still had no background in a video game company, and really all of these hiring decisions really just show inexperience from a leader. And the spending was out of control, and it was never reined in because there was never expressed that there were money problems, even until the very end. It was estimated that the company at one point was spending $4 million per month. And between 2007 and 2008, the company spent more than $705,000 on travel and entertainment. They just weren't disciplined, and because you had so many inexperienced people, and also Curt Schilling just wanted to run it like a family. And because of that, he just wanted to give the very best to his people. There are still ex-employees who will defend him to this day, but it doesn't matter when the company fell through because of these type of reckless behaviors. The company structure was never really followed through with because Curt would give direct orders to people, circumventing their supervisors. After the hiring binge, it was a joke about all of the fake titles that were handed out. And so I think all of these contributed to why this company fell apart. How could it have ended differently? Well, first off, it was a startup, and he should have started small. While he did release the single-player game, that wasn't his original intention. If he had originally started the company with that in mind, he could have had smaller aspirations. By starting the company to begin with, he wants to be Bill Gates rich, and he wants to get there as fast as possible. He's already running it for the wrong reason. Schilling had so many experts around him, but he kept undermining and doing things that would lead to the project not succeeding. The spending was never reined in, and it was always out of control, and it really just led to hurting the state of Rhode Island, destroying Curt Schilling's personal wealth, and it hurt all of his employees who were left with unpaid moving expenses. And there was a pregnant employee who found out that they were no longer paying benefits when she went to the doctor. It's a horrible thing. They really screwed over their employees in trying to create the best possible company for them. And also, he needed to keep family out of it. In treating it like family, he wasn't keeping anybody accountable, and also in hiring his family, he was making it so that no one would take them seriously. And lastly, he should not have made the deal with the state of Rhode Island. At that point, they knew their prospects were low, and they were over-promising. They should have known from the start that the deal was not going to hold up, and that's why a lot of leadership started leaving as we were getting into late 2011, early 2012. And that wraps it up for us, so we just want to say thanks, everybody. Congratulations on completing your degree, and we hope to see you all on Saturday at graduation.